Hi everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back for another video. Today I'm going to be sharing 3 ways to alter or embellish pattern paper. Now this is a new pattern paper collection that was in the Hedgehog Hollow June subscription box. So if you're not familiar with the subscription box from the Hedgehog Hollow, I will leave a link down below where you can check them out, and also the video where Alexandra, who runs and curates the Hedgehog Hollow boxes, where she introduced everything that was in this box. So you'll see all the stamp sets and you'll get a better look at all these pattern papers. But this is the pattern paper collection that was in the kit for June, and it has 12 different designs and 2 sheets of each design. So if you really love a pattern, you're not going to waste it just by using one sheet. You've got that extra sheet as a backup, which I love. These are also very thick papers. So these aren't like the computer paper feeling types of cardstock or pattern paper. These are nice, thick, heavyweight sheets. They've got a nice surface on them. It is a little slick. It is a little bit glossy, but I guess I would say it's in between a matte and a glossy finish. It's got a nice gloss on it, but it will also absorb ink if you want to stamp on it. And I do some ink blending later on in the video, so it does just fine. Now for my first card, I am going to be using a piece of watercolor pattern paper, which I love because I'm horrible at watercolor backgrounds. So this works out perfect for me. I cut it down to an A2 size, and I'll be putting some white pearl modeling paste over this. I'm using this through a stencil. So this is the first way you can alter your pattern paper. You can add texture over it. You don't have to use the stencil or the paste I'm using today. You can use any stencil you might have on hand. A polka dot, a stripe, maybe a little burlap looking stencil on there would be gorgeous. Netting, anything like that would be so pretty on this card. And it doesn't have to be the white pearl that I'm using. I just wanted a little bit of a glossy finish. However, you can use texture paste, embossing paste. They're really the same thing. You can use different colors of modeling paste. Create your own color. Add a little shimmer on there. There's tons of different things you can use to make this your own design. All I did was put on this stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. It's a wave stencil, and spread this modeling paste through with a palette knife. Then I'll go ahead and release that stencil, and I've got this gorgeous pattern on that watercolor background, and it's a whole new design, which I absolutely love. Here's a closer look at the shine you get when you do use that white pearl. It is absolutely stunning, and it's all ready to go. You don't have to add anything extra to it. Now I set that aside to dry, and I'm going to go ahead and make the rest of the embellishments that are going to go on my card. So also included in the box is this great seahorses stamp set. There are quite a few stamp sets in this box. This is the first one I'm using today. It's called Seahorses, and I'm using the seahorse from the stamp set. I went ahead and stamped my first layer in Cymbeline ink from Catherine Pooler, and then over the top of that I'm going to add the detail with some Mandarin Spice ink from Catherine Pooler as well. You just really line it up, look straight through. They're clear stamps, so it's really easy to go ahead and layer those up. Also on that same stamp set, there is a little coral kind of stamp layering set here. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my first layer in the Lime Ricky, which is my lighter color. And then right over the top of that, I'm going to come in with the detail, which is kind of like the outline of the coral. And for that, I'll be using Grass Skirt, which is my darker color. These are so fun to layer up and add on to your cards. I absolutely love them, and they're super simple and easy to line up as well. As you can see, I did mine with regular acrylic blocks. I didn't even use a stamp positioner for that. I went ahead and fussy cut those out, and then it was time to stamp my sentiment. I used the sentiment Wild and Free, just like the sea. That's from that same Seahorses stamp set. And I stamped that on some blue cardstock that is also included in the kit. I went ahead and layered that over some vellum, and then added my little seahorse and coral over to the right-hand side. Super simple and easy. Now, once I had that all done, it was time to load everything onto the card base. The great thing about this kit is it does come with card bases. These are 110-pound Nina Solar White card bases. They come ready to go. All you need to do is score them at 4.5, and you have an A2 size card once you fold them over. Really, really easy to do. They're nice and sturdy. So I went ahead and applied that to the card base with a little bit of glue, and you also get envelopes. So I went ahead and paired this with a navy envelope that comes in the kit as well. Also in the kit, you get this smaller little stamp set that is for, you can use it on the outside. I love these. These are longer sentiments for the inside of my card. So on each one of these cards today, you're going to see the inside of the card, and these sentiments all come from this stamp set. It's the inside versus stamp set, and it is for the rolling subscription subscribers. They get that in their box, which I believe is kind of like a little perk for if you are a rolling subscriber member. Now I am going to go ahead and first place my card into my MISTI. This is my big MISTI, and I just flip my MISTI around and use it horizontally. This works perfectly. I just line up one of my edges in the bottom corner. Then I'll go ahead and place my sentiment right where I want it, close the lid, and then I can just stamp it down when I'm ready to go. I'm using VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. Super duper simple and easy to stamp on the inside of your cards, even when you have decoration on the outside. To dress up this sentiment, I grabbed a stamp from that Seahorses stamp set and stamped that right over the sentiment with a little bit of Melanized ink, which is a lighter ink. Turned out beautiful. Now on to my next card. For this, I'm going to be using this jellyfish pattern paper. It's got jellyfish and seahorses. It is so pretty, but I felt like this had a little bit of a vintage feel, so I wanted to go ahead and distress it a little bit. I cut it down to 4.25. No, I cut this one down smaller. I cut it down to 4 inches by 5.25, slightly smaller than A2 size. And I'm just going to ink blend the edges. Super simple and easy to alter this by doing that. And you don't have to do it vintage style like I'm doing here. You can always go in with different colors, ink blend over the top. It really is up to you how you want to ink blend over this and add your little touches to it. I'm using Over Coffee and Icing on the Cake inks from Catherine Pooler. I went a little heavier with Over Coffee and lighter on the edges with the Icing on the Cake, which is the darker color. Now, this is the fun part. I'm going to distress the edges. You can get a tool from Tim Holtz that does this for you, but I am in a small workspace, so I like to use what I have on hand. I like to use my craft knife. You have to be super careful if you're going to do it this way, though. Make sure you don't cut yourself. But I just take the edge of my craft knife and rub it over the edge of my pattern paper. You can also kind of push your craft knife down here and there and make little gouges as well, and that creates a really nice effect for the distressing. Again, just be super careful when you're doing this because you don't have kind of that safety that you get with the Tim Holtz tool, which I will leave that link down below also, but this is what I like to do to distress my edges, and I feel like I have more control over it this way as well. There's a closer look at the distressed edge you get when you use that technique. To finish this card off, I'm going to go ahead and go in with this stamp set. It's called Just Keep Swimming, and it has this beautiful conch shell in it. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp that down onto some basil cardstock. This is kind of a peachy color. I'm stamping it in Versamark ink, and I'm using my MISTI to do that. I gave it a couple of stamps because it was a new stamp. Over that, I'm going to apply some champagne embossing powder. This is from Imagine Crafts. It is a little bit different. It comes in a bag. However, this really helps me in my small craft space, and I like it better than the little jars. I have an easier time pouring it out and also funneling it back in when it's in the bag. So there's a closer look at that little conch shell. I went ahead and fussy cut it out very quickly. I love the look of the champagne on that coral peachy cardstock. It's just gorgeous. So I went ahead and applied that to a piece of vellum, and also I stamped my sentiment onto a flag banner and popped that up onto a piece of vellum as well. Then on the back of that, just where I have foam beforehand, I added more foam so I could attach that to my panel, which is on a card base as well. The sentiment I am using today is from that same Just Keep Swimming stamp set, and it says, "Let the seeds set you free." It's so pretty. I went ahead and stamped that again in Versamark ink and used that same champagne embossing powder to go ahead and put that onto the flag banner. Super simple and easy card. It took no time at all. The inside, I went ahead and used that same Inside Versus stamp set. And right underneath that, I pulled in a shell from the Just Keep Swimming stamp set and stamped that down with some sugared lavender ink from Catherine Pooler for just a really quick inside finishing off. Now my third card, I'm going to go ahead and use this pattern paper. This is my favorite. I absolutely love these. I'm going to cut this in half and save that other one for another card because I only want this little section right here. I love that this has a white background on it, and it looks like you could have made this yourself. Like it looks like a piece of string art or watercolor you could have made yourself, but all you had to do was cut down some pattern paper. So I'm cutting this down to 2 3/4, and then I cut it down to 5.5 inches, just a 1/4 of an inch off the top of the bottom. And I am going to add some foil to this to make it shine in just certain places. I'm using the pewter foil from Deco Foil, and I'll be using my Zig 2-way glue pen. I have just like the little pen tip, the ballpoint pen tip. You could use the chisel tip, whatever you have on hand. You just need a glue that is going to dry tacky once it dries. So what I like to do is take a little bit and put it down, but I don't want a nice straight line. So I take my finger and kind of blot it up. If you don't want to put your finger in the glue, you could always use a Q-tip or a sponge or something like that, but I find my fingertip works just fine. And if you like the look of just the straight line, by all means you can just put the glue down and let it dry. I just happen to like to blot it a little bit. I'm going in and adding this just in different places where I think a little bit of foil would look nice. Not anywhere too close next to each other. And I'm keeping the spaces relatively smaller. There's going to be some larger, some smaller, no rhyme or reason. And you don't have a ton of control over this. It's kind of going to just go where the glue is. So once I have that all down, I'm going to take a little piece of that pewter foil and press it right over the top. You can use your fingers, but I have glue on mine, so I'm actually going to grab this tool right here. It's just a little squeegee, but by all means use your fingers. They work just as well. I'm going to go ahead and give that a good press and let that get onto the glue. You want to make sure the glue has dried to a clear finish, which means it will be tacky. You don't want it wet. You want it to be that tacky stage, and then when you pull up your foil, you're going to be left with these gorgeous little foiled bits on that pattern. The great thing about this technique, if you feel like you want a little bit more foil here and there, you can go in and add more and more and more until you're happy with it. Because this doesn't have to go through a laminator, you're free to do this as many times as you want. So keep adding until you're happy with it. Just make sure you give that glue time to dry until it's at that clear stage. So I came in and added a little bit more, and then I'll go ahead and pull up that foil and then just give it some good presses where I feel like it didn't stick well enough. And there is my panel ready to go. I absolutely love the way this one turned out, and it was so quick and easy to do. So I went ahead and finished this card off really simply. I added a little strip of cardstock that is included in the kit. I believe it's from Basil. It's got a nice pearly sheen to it, so it fits kind of the foiled look as well. I went ahead and stamped a sentiment from the Just Keep Swimming stamp set. I stamped that in Twilight ink from Catherine Pooler, added it onto a flag banner, and put that flag banner onto the card base along with that panel. I paired it with a navy envelope that's included in this set. And now my favorite part, the inside of this card. I went ahead and used that Inside Versus stamp set, but I pulled this stamp from It's All in the Waves stamp set from the kit itself. I stamped that in Twilight ink. That could be a card design on its own. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So there's a closer look at all three cards and 3 different ways to alter your pattern paper, embellish it, have fun with it, and make these techniques your own. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There is going to be a link where you can subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and another video that you might be interested in watching. Don't forget all the information down in the description box. Thanks for watching, and happy crafting, everyone.